Hello everybody, welcome to you. And we're beginning one of our Grisly trails. We're going to do the entirety of York for you this night. The weather is hideous, but that's not going to stop us. We've got Kenny with us as well. We also have Anna, the winner of our competition that got us to York in the first place. So thanks again to everybody. Just showing you at first, there's been a gate here for 2,000 years. Now, if you think what's happened during that period, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Think about what was happening 2,000 years ago. And this is a gate that has been destroyed by the Scots in the 1600s. If you're wondering who's on the top, you've got a Lord Mayor, you've got the guy who actually built the building in the first place. Right. So you're expecting heroes. Yeah. None of them are heroes, and they were there to replace 3 statues that nobody actually knows who they were, but they had 3 statues there originally. However, lots of good stories. The gate here used to have a portcullis on it, and you know what a portcullis is? It's a metal thing that goes up and comes down. They had 2 very strong wooden doors as well, and they put a huge door knocker on it. But the door knocker wasn't for the English, the Welsh or the Irish, or for anybody from any part of the world except Scotland. Now, York as a city didn't have all of its laws rearranged, and up to 60 years ago you could go into York with a bow and arrow, fire it into a Scottish person, and you couldn't be prosecuted for it. Now, wouldn't like to try it now. However, if you see this without the Christmas lights on, it actually looks better. If you're driving in during the day and the lights are off, you can see all of the city shields of the knights that represent the city. They're dotted around the cross. You see them through the lights at the top. Now, a couple of things about this. First of all, the heads of the Scottish traitors, they called them, were placed along the top on spikes as a warning against the Scots to come back and cause any problems. The juiciest thing is, though, the Vikings took over here. Obviously, it became Jorvik, the capital of Viking Britain. We'll be going past the Jorvik centre a little bit later on. But a man we've mentioned on a couple of our ghosty trips up the northeast coast came here and stood, hang on, try not to die, here. Now, this is a fortress marker, as you can see. Now, if you walk up the stairs, and you can't get up the stairs at the present moment because they close them after a certain time because they don't want people falling from the battlements. However, Porta Principalis, Eboricum. Oh, that's the Roman name for it. Yeah, the 300s. However, if you move up a good few hundred years to here, in that corner, on that very nook, a man called Ivar the Boneless stood waving his men through this. The portcullis and the main door was closed. This gate was open. Why? Because it was a Sunday and everybody had to come in to go to church. So therefore, the gate was open. The Vikings poured through. Ivar the Boneless standing up there telling his men, "Now, now." And they all ran in and butchered everybody in the church that is now where the minster stands. Right. Wasn't actually the minster at the time. It was just a smallish sized church. However, Ivar the Boneless getting his men fired up through here. They charged through. They went into all the churches, and there's a lot of churches in here. They just piled into the churches and killed everybody. Now, strange but true. If you think, well, people who don't believe in God are not going to hold Sunday as a sacred day. Like if you're Jewish, if people who are not Jewish are not going to stop killing you on a Saturday. You know, that's just how it is. So they charged through and they butchered the bulk of Christians in York. Now, Pearl Harbor, why did the Japanese attack first thing on a Sunday morning? Because everybody was in church, as if we hadn't learned a lesson from Ivor the Boneless in York. So anyway, they charged through here. We're going to charge through here as well. Eboracum. And we're on to a place called Petergate. And already we're getting a feel of what York is all about. And it gets better and better with every step. You can see old pubs and you know that you can see the age of them. You can see the old buildings that are genuine. And you've got to look for the nooks and crannies. Because if you think about it, back in the day, places like that, next to taverns and coach houses, have a look down, Tony. It's little places like this. There are thousands of them here in York. Why? Lots of reasons. One of them, though, was there was an awful lot of people trying to recruit you for the army, trying to recruit you for the navy. People needed places to run and hide. And of course, as soon as you create a thing like this, it ends up getting used by all of the people that you least want to use it. Thieves and cut purses. Got to be careful, we're on a main route here. Excuse me. So if you're a thief and you're trying to escape anybody, having 1,000 of these in the city is of huge help. The next place we've got for you is just on the right hand side here. The thing I love about York is everybody buys into it. Here is the Grimoire bookshop. Now the Grimoire is one of the oldest otherworldly books of all time, and a lot of people create their own grimoire by collecting spells and witchcraft incantations. Here we go. This is Petergate House. Now, this is a place where people used to come and hold talks. It's got here the York Oratory. It was exactly that. The interesting thing is, there's a ghost in here of a man called Henry Swinburne. Henry Swinburne was one of the people responsible for an amazing building in the middle of a tiny street. Look at the size of this place. Imagine how much money back then it would cost to build something like this. Now, the only part of this that is original is one floor down, and it's a very, very long cellar tunnel. And it's said that the ghost of Henry Swinburne walks up and down there all the time. We can't get in this time of night, but it is one of the most recognized spectres. Hundreds of people have seen Henry in there. Hang on. So, on we go. Coming out now to another famous area. Of course, you can hear the bells of York Minster. Just on the corner here, there's a couple of places that you might have heard about before. Listen to that. Light it up, Kenny. York Minster, one of the greatest Gothic cathedrals anywhere in the world. Lots of stories that we'll get into soon. Just before we do, over here, There's a pub over there called the Guy Fawkes, just there. That's where Guy Fawkes was born. He was christened in that church there, directly opposite. And a lot of his friends and family came out to protest outside that church when he was arrested back in the day. So we're so close to the Minster, we're going to be getting into those stories. But if you do swing around, this is the church of St Michael de Belfry. Back in the middle 1600s, during a revolt, outside on the main square right here, 150 traitors were supposed to be set on fire. Now at first, apparently, a lot of this was grass at the time, and they put posts up, and the thought was, let's burn them to death at a stake, the traditional way of doing it, with kindling around their feet, so that they literally cooked alive. They started that, but it's 150. They had 30 stakes, so they would have to cook them, kill them, remove them, restock them 5 times. So eventually they pulled out the stakes, pushed all the stakes into the middle, set fire to all of it, smacked them across the head, threw them on till they were all burnt alive. Outside a church next to this. Now, does anything hypocritical sound outside a church next to a cathedral? Unbelievable. Can I borrow that, please? Just for a second, thank you. Now, I am actually looking for something. It's supposed to be around here. Let's see if we can find it. If we were looking for a soundtrack tonight, we've absolutely got it. Oh, here it is.
That was Quasimodo. His name rang a bell.
Oh dear. Recognise him? Know who it is? Who it is?
That there is the pagan god.
Green man.
It's the Green Man.
Yeah.
Now, like most of the, we talk about hypocrisy, people being burnt alive. Why were they burnt alive? They didn't support the king. They didn't believe in the church. So the church and the king killed them, right? Now, the Scots were the arch enemies of everybody connected with Rome and have been for hundreds and hundreds of years. Now, Kenny, you and I have been to enough churches in that neck of the woods and a lot of buildings and a lot of cemeteries.
Yeah.
The cross, the Celtic cross, is a Christian. It's not even a crucifix. It's just a cross. And what makes it different?
The circle.
It's got the circle in, the circle of life, the ancient pagan symbol. The church are amazing at this. Now, first of all, can I give huge credit to the Christians for creating something that is a statement of their faith that looks like that. And I'm sorry, but whichever way you dress it, it's magnificent in all directions. But they always have to take a dig at the people they've killed. So they say, oh, well, I know we're Christians, but let's put a green man in. And I tell you, we'll put a thing on saying they can give us £3 to donate because they put a green man there. Now, what's the green man? If you believe in nature, that's all, wildlife, critters, the sea, the sky. That's nature. And a lot of Wiccans and a lot of non-believers believe in nature because you see it happening every day. The beauty of it, the wonder of it, a butterfly's wing, for heaven's sake. It's got nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with anybody's God. That's nature. No matter what's there, nature will do its thing. It's amazing. But the Christians have a habit of doing things like this. Let's raise some money from the people who don't believe in all of this by putting a little thing there, and all these pagans and non-believers will say, oh, give them £3 and £3 more and £3 more. And I genuinely think, is it nice that they recognise that other people exist? Yeah. Shouldn't they always have been doing that? Yeah. But they'll do that, and I love it. I like this. Beautiful. Love it. Hits me in the heart because here's Father Nature. I suppose everyone talks about Mother Nature because the earth is a nurturing thing. It looks after us. It cares for us like a mother. But because everybody talking about Mother Nature, there had to be a Father Nature, and that became the green man. Don't know whether they're married, don't know whether they're living in sin, they might not even be straight, and it doesn't matter. The fact is, back in the day, it wasn't what they believed, so they'd kill him. Done. Look at this place. Now there's numerous ghost stories attached to this place because it's been destroyed. William the Conqueror, where are you? There you are. William the Conqueror came here during a time called the Harrowing of the North, the harrying of the North. And he destroyed the whole thing, and he wiped everybody out that was to do with it. It wasn't as big as this then. No. But look at the door. Look at this door. I think it's the original as well. It looks like it. Look at this. Beautiful. Wow. Looks like the original door. If it was the original door, not only did William the Conqueror, this is 1069, 3 years after he conquered Britain, he came here, waded in there, wiped them out, and started embellishing it for the glory of his country, France. Now he was King of England. You got to remember he was French. Yeah. So I know we like to believe, no, he was one of ours, William. What, Willie? Honestly? However, then the Vikings came. Juicy story. The Vikings came. They hate hypocrisy at every level. And what the Vikings did when they came here, they burst in, dragged all the priests out to slay them here on the steps. Now, priest after priest after priest murdered here. They completely gutted the place of anything that was remotely valuable. And the interesting thing was, the guy who was the head prior, the bishop at the time, was pulled out here. And roughly, it says roughly where the statue of Constantine is, which is just there. In this area here, we'll show you Constantine in a minute, but around this area, they got hold of the bishop. They ripped all of his clothes off, and with tiny knives, two men keep punching him so that he's dazed, while a number of Vikings started peeling the skin off him, starting at his toes, the sole of his feet, all the way up his legs, his genitals, his lower body area, his chest, his arms, all the way down individual fingers, cutting a finger down the center so you could peel it all the way around, right the way up to his head. By the time you got it up to here, got to remember, you've got a cape of skin.
Yeah.
So then you start to peel their head. Now they say he was still alive till the very end. Peel his head, his chin, his lips, his nose, his eyes, including his eyelids, and then they took off the top of his head. Now, they say that he was still alive at the end of that, and it's possibly true, but he would have died of toxic shock, I'm guessing, pretty soon afterwards. Then what did they do? Something that Vikings... Sorry?
The bell, the wind
Oh,
and the bells, it's cutting out a lot of...
Sorry, everybody. Right, so what do you think they did? They did what the Vikings have done on hundreds of occasions, and that is they folded the skin into a shape that's loosely the size of a small suitcase, and it looks like a book because it's...
Yeah. All folded, yeah.
Then they went back to that door with a nail, hammered it to the gate. Now, after the Vikings had left, and you got to remember they took the place, people ran in to say, where are our priests? Where are our monks? Where are they? They went in to see if any of them were still alive. They weren't. And when they saw the book, looked like a book, on the gate, they thought, look what they've done. They've nailed a Bible. They've nailed our holy book. When they got there, it wasn't a holy book, it was their holy man that they'd put there. So, amazing. Oh, incidentally, you know I mentioned that church there, St. Michael de Belfry, mentioned it before. Should have mentioned at the time that way back when that was a tiny, tiny little church cum abbey, that's where the Emperor Constantine became the emperor. Right there. So why would a Roman emperor be named there? Because he was in charge of the Roman Empire at the time when the original emperor died. He was the next in line. He became the emperor. And here he is, Constantine. Constantine the Great, 274 to 337, proclaimed Roman emperor in York in 306. 306 there, just to get your numbers right. And there he is. Looks a bit of a hard ass, and absolutely was. Whoa, wind's starting to get a bit sharp. I think you're better off with your lights rather than mine, Tony. Bear with me a second.
It even says on there he was proclaimed.
Yeah, it's right here.
Right.
It's amazing. I mean, they put a lovely star up on the minster over yonder. Very nice. However, the wind is...
From the wind.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're heading to the Roman column over yonder. But Constantine... Yeah, it's interesting, the Constantine thing. And the reason I was slightly concerned, that was put up in the 300s. That one there. Tell you about it in a second once we get out the wind. Is it less windy out over here, is it? Yeah, there's a bit of shelter here. Constantine, to me, is vastly interesting for a lot of reasons. The Romans and Roman soldiers became Roman soldiers. Why? Do you know how they became Roman soldiers?
I didn't know.
Well, anywhere they conquered,
Yeah.
they would go to a village, a tribal village. Now, this is anywhere pretty much in the Western world at the time, and some of the Eastern world. And they'd conquer the place, and then they'd say to the people there, we'll let you rule your own land, but you've got to give us one of your sons to join the Roman army. If you do that, you can keep your farm, you can keep your land, but they've got to become, well, you're not going to fight against your own sons. So all of the lands they conquered became loyal to Rome. Henceforth, the Roman Empire grew and grew and grew and grew. Now, multiply that by 500,000 times to 1 million times. We're talking over the course of the Roman Empire, there's an awful lot of soldiers, and they're from all over the world. Now, here was the 9th Legion. Yes, the 9th Legion. and they were from Spain, and they all rode horses that were loosely this height. I was loving that when we started.
Now we hear it.
Beginning to hate it a little. But maybe it's because we're telling the truth about what they did. So now, well, let's move on. Let's walk on. The interesting thing, though, about Constantine, we're actually moving back that way and round eventually. So do we want to walk right round the corner and do it there? Yeah, let's do that. Come on. Get as far away from them as we possibly can, just so that you guys can hear properly. Just wish we could get along there. We actually need to go up here to the treasurer's house, which is the other side of where the bells are being rung, so probably better. But while we're walking along, trying to avoid pudules, Constantine, and talking about Constantine wasn't even born in Rome, and yet he became a Roman emperor. He was from, because back in the day, his father, a very, very brave warrior, Roman soldier, as a captain, a head of the guards, had a child with somebody from Dacia, and Constantine was born. Now, Constantine created the most powerful city in the world. Any idea what it was? Boom! Give that girl a gong. That's brilliant. Well done. Yeah, Constantinople, which is now Istanbul. Brilliant. But he made Istanbul a super city. And it was, again, heavily castled, but obviously in a Turkish style. But where's Dacia? He was a Dacian.
No,
Romania. So the Roman emperor came from a set of Carpathian Mountains in Romania. Now, that's not it. I don't think that's it. I think that may be it. Look at it though. Just look at the size of the window. You just want to replace a bit of glass.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that top one there just needs a new one.
Amazing. Now directly behind, in fact just around the corner, just over here, we're not going to go around too far, but around there is a very, very famous building that Tony and I went in. Do you remember the Treasurer's House? Last time we did a ghost hunt, it's on Robson's World, it's one of the audio stories. We actually go in there, into the cellar that is said to be haunted. Now, this story's been told 3 times, there's 3 versions of it, and I've spoken to people from all 3 that claim absolutely that it was their place. You probably heard the story too, which is about the people who are stock taking and they go down into the cellar in York, and all of a sudden they hear a and a cart horse comes out of nowhere in their cellar, followed by an entire Roman legion, and they're cut off at the knee.
Yeah.
And they're all down there, and they watch them just walk by. Well, when we were at the Treasurer's House, they say it happened at the Treasurer's House. It was here. And we've seen people and we've heard the Legion marching through. We've heard the Treasurer's House. 2 shops on the Shambles that we'll be visiting soon. There's a hell of a story with the Shambles as well. We'll tell you more about that later. But 2 shops on the Shambles say, no, it was here. It was in the cellar here. I can tell you the name of the people who, so it's the same story being claimed by, to me, did it happen? I think it happened. I don't know which one is telling the truth. I've tended to go with the Shambles, and the reason for that is simply that the roads here are roughly where they were back in Roman times here, but at the Shambles, they were 3 feet further down. Yeah. So I'm more prone to believe the Shambles story. Now, as we go back along here, I just want to finish up that Constantine thing, because to me, the most fascinating thing about it, it's double-headed. First of all, Constantine became the very first Roman emperor who was a Christian. Okay, he became a Christian, and he decided that he was going to ask his followers, anybody that happened to be a part of the Roman Empire, if they would become Christians too. Now, he said, anybody that is not a Christian, we're going to have to deal with. Now, the problem was, back then, a lot of the Romans had their own Roman gods. They had a whole hat full of Roman gods. So are you going to kill your fellow Romans? Well, patently not. So he says, okay, if you want to continue following the ancient Roman gods, that's absolutely fine. But the Roman Empire shall now be Christian, and anybody who doesn't follow Roman gods or who's not a Christian will have to be dealt with, and that meant killed. Now, over the years that followed, the Roman Empire ended up killing thousands of people. I mean, not just thousands of people, hundreds of thousands. And the interesting thing is that when Hitler killed 6 million Jews, he was killing off what some people say was roughly 7% of the world's population, which is horrific. Yeah. But back in the time of Constantine, in 300, when he killed off close to 200,000 people, it was about 12% of the known population at the time. So it was a greater Holocaust at the time per head of population. Now, he killed hundreds of thousands of people. What do you think the Christians did? They made him a saint.
I was going to say, yeah.
You killed all them people for us.
Oh, yeah, you're
oh, you fancy. So, you know, it's just a tad annoying. Now we're starting to get into proper York streets. What is it with the bells? That's not that one, is it? Is that not down here?
It's a different one, isn't it? It's an advert with a postcode.
It's it was ringing the bell, that's for damn sure. Right, we've got two particularly haunted houses down here. We've got to find number 35 first. There's another one. Walking into a ghost trail. He might be at the shop, you never know. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if we can find number 35. It was inevitable this would happen because there's dozens of these guys. I think it's on that side, but I'm not sure. 35? This is it. 35? Now, it is said that this is one of the most haunted buildings in York. Doesn't look remotely like it, but there it is. They actually say that, that this place, yeah, originally the building that was there was 994, 994, this building, number 35, Stonegate. Now it says that it's been long haunted, long overdue, people coming to see it. They refurbed it apparently in the 1990s, and nobody's prepared to work on the top floor, which is where Tom lives. Tom's a ghost, and you'll notice that they're using this floor. There's nothing up there because they leave it to Tom. Now the other one is number 40, which should be on this side. It shouldn't be far away. There it is. Ye Old Star Inn, York's oldest licensed pub. And I think it's so, you know, pubs like the Evil Eye. And it's along, yeah, let's go down and have a look. Now, it's said that in the cellars of Ye Old Star Inn, this is a real old rumour, it said that the cellars were built above the graves of the dead. Now, they weren't even sure who they were, but they knew that it was like a small cemetery of sorts. Now, you've got to remember that it's not on the front here. It's, what, 40, 50 yards down here? Can you go down there, Tony? take a walk. Now this place also, there was a woman murdered here, and 2 black cats are said to be seen wandering around, and sometimes if you're in the bar you'll feel them rubbing your legs. York's oldest licensed pub. And the 2 cats in the cellar, the ghost of the old woman walks up and down the staircases here, just inside. But there's a pillar next to the bar. I don't know whether we're able to physically see it from outside, but there's a pillar near the bar that's said to house 2 black cats. And back in the day, in the 1600s, they used to build a wall, grab a live cat, and without killing it, push the cat into the wall and then brick it in. The idea was, at the time, it was all witchcrafts, in a book called the Malleus Maleficarum, the hammer of the witches, a book telling you how to get rid of heathens and people who didn't believe in God. And they thought, as a black cat was a symbol of the familiar of a witch, if you put the cats into the wall, it would stop any evil eye. Funny, the bar next door called Evil Eye. Stop anybody being cursed or affected by those kind of things. So the pillar is there, you can go in and see it, where the cats are bricked up inside. We also got the old woman apparently who comes down the stairs here, and finally, beneath the cellar floor, an old cemetery. Now, it was said that when this place was being built, they could have declared that it was a cemetery and therefore they would not have been allowed to build on it. They said nothing, built the old Star Inn, and the bodies are still there, and there's supposed to be about 30 to 40 in the cellar floor. So there's another one ticked off our list as we make our way. But remember, you guys can follow in our footsteps very, very easily. Rock on. We're going back a ways and heading down towards the shambles. Back left, Tony. Is that right? Not cat friendly. Hang on. If you want a quick one. Now, they've started doing this because, you know, a lot of these are business premises now, so they've put bars on. There was never any bars anyway. Now, this is another one of those ye old alleys, and if you have a look, it's called Coffee Yard. Now, it was called a coffee yard because by the time this became a busy thoroughfare, relatively busy thoroughfare, they were importing goods from all over the world, including coffee, which people thought was an amazing and incredible thing. And down here, one of the people was called Langton, formerly Langton Lane. Now, the Langtons owned this whole place, and they let a building that I think is, it's the one that has the roof over the top. Do you see it?
Yeah.
At the end. Now, he let that to the people who were bringing coffee over, and they brought slaves with them, and they had slaves working here. Now, a lot of the locals here in York were totally against that, and this is the whitest thing you could imaginably do. They feel sorry for the slaves because the slaves are working for nothing, and then they're going back on the boat and they're getting more coffee and they're bringing it here to feed Coffee Lane, this new substance that everybody's drinking. As I say, the whitest thing anybody could ever do. They're unhappy with the man for bringing his slaves here, so they murder the slaves.
What?
Anyway, they took the name off him. They called it Coffee Yard instead, and he stopped bringing slaves with him when he was, yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? But it is absolutely a white thing to do, isn't it? And it's one of those towns that, or cities, that slightly posher than most, it has to be said. But bars in all directions here, but we're heading straight down. And we should come out at a place called King's Square eventually. We were talking about when we were heading up at the very beginning, we were talking about how good it was that all the shops were shut because there's cool sweets in all directions. Look at that, there's a fudge kitchen behind you, a fudge kitchen! Oh dear. It's wet and sticky, and I was talking about my underwear there, but fudge is too if it's good. Pining for some. Right, come on, let's crack on. So much to see in so many different areas, and it's soaking. You can see how wet it is. The river banks here at York have already flooded. Oh yeah, we're nearly there. It's just ahead of us. Talbot Court. That's another one. When you come to York, just be aware that there's people that will take your money off you in all directions. No, oh, here it is. Mad Alice Lane. Who was Mad Alice? Two versions of the story. First version is a woman who she had like 11 children to about 12 men. Don't know how that happened, but she had 11 children to a load of different fathers. And when people came, she was a lady of ill repute. Whenever anybody came, she'd fall pregnant again, have another child. And all of the men would say, yes, I'll look after you. Of course I will. I'll send you money. Nobody ever did. And she drove herself mad and ended up murdering all of her children. That's the first story. Second story's a little bit more interesting. Alice was actually the daughter of a rich family who, because she was a bit slack Alice, had decided to cast her out. Well, if you're rich and you're thrown out onto the street, you don't have any money, they don't say, here's a pile of cash, off you go. They just send you out on the streets with what you're carrying. So Mad Alice, or Alice, who became mad, decided that she would set up shop, so to speak, down here. And it does look like the kind of place that maybe Jack the Ripper would choose to visit at some point. Yeah, and there's there's blood on the wall. There's blood on the wall here. Do you see it? Like they've dragged the body along here. So Alice set up shop down here, right at the very end. And she sold herself to rich clients who were able to come down here unseen and enjoy her body. Keep your eyes out as well. If you see anything, screenshot it, share it with us. If you see any kind of figures, because Alice's ghost is said to walk along here. Now Alice, that's the door. Although the house behind it's been rebuilt, that was where the door was to not a particularly rich looking house which went along there. Old, tatty, nasty. And Alice used to get the rich and the wealthy to come to her. And Alice would sleep with them, fall pregnant, and then on at least half a dozen occasions, she'd try and blackmail them to give her lots and lots of money. And it worked. Some of these rich people did provide her with a fair bit of money, to the degree that she was saving up so she could move out of here into better quality of York digs. However, one of the wealthy people that she slept with was the son of the mayor of York at the time. And Alice had slept with him, pregnant with his child, so the mayor declared her insane and had her placed in an asylum where the child was born, taken off her, given to the church. Nobody had to pay her any money anymore. She stayed in an asylum until she died, and she was mad, and she was Alice. And this is where she did her trade. And I mean, it'd be sad if you were doing that kind of thing here. But she was successfully ripping off all of these rich people. And this place will not look too different from when she did that. Look at it. Small little shops where maybe back in the day, clothes shops. So I tend to believe the second story about Mad Alice because it's just kind of the thing that you would do. Send somebody to an insane asylum so rich people didn't have to pay money. And that's pretty much what all that is about. So onwards to the square, which is just down here, past Poundland, which sticks out like a sore thumb in York, doesn't it?
Like, yeah.
Should be 20 Poundland. Should be. Next door to Miss Diva, come on. Love these. Crazy, do you love these kind of things? Just beautiful. And here we are. We're nearly at one of the more famous places here. In all directions there's a story, as you can imagine here. Right, this central area where there's quite often a market, there's two places of the Christmas market. There's here, and the second part is just over the other side. There's a big long street that runs down. That's probably the one you were referring to. But this is King's Square. Looks more of a circle to a square, but King's Square it is. This is a place that was called Koningsgard, and it's this place, although there's no buildings on it, this centre place used to be where the kings of Danelaw used as their great hall. This is where the Viking leaders would judge people, put people on trial, and sometimes, unlike trials of today, what the Danes used to do, they'd say, okay, we don't know whether you're guilty or not of attacking and murdering that family, so what we'll do is we'll give you an axe and we'll put your wife over there up against the wall, and you've got to throw the axe and cut off one of her pigtails, and if you can do that from 20 feet, you're telling the truth, we'll set you free. However, should you harm her in any way, your life will be forfeit. So the poor woman, who's totally innocent of whatever it was, would be stuck up against the wall, her pigtails would be held out, and this guy from 20 feet going to throw an axe at you, or a spear, or a knife, and if he cut her in any shape or form, well, if the axe hit her right in the middle, you know, it's not exactly going to end well, but he would lose his life. So they did trials. Sometimes it was a trial of strength, sometimes it was actually fighting a fellow Viking, but it all happened here. Now, when the Vikings disappeared, then they realized that underneath the Great Hall of the Danes, they found another Great Hall, and they believe that this was where the ancient kings of Northumbria used to hold their court. So without one telling the other, this is where you do it, they automatically came to the same spot, and it's right here in King's Square. Now the next place we're taking is probably the most famous place in all of York. Let's rock on, it's just through here. Right, oh, how can we split the screen when we're just going to the juicy bit with plagues and death and murder and toil? Anyway, if people would like to join us, how do they do it, Tony?
Just there's a link in the video description, just click that and join.
It is that simple, really. Ask anybody. Yeah, fingers crossed you can. I'd love you to join us. Until the second part, we're just going to crock on. If we're leaving you here, from Kenny, from
Bye
Tony,
for
from me, hey, come on, just join us. And Anna's with us as well. We're still doing good. Let's crack on. Now, this place, everybody knows it as the Shambles.